Circle of solstice power. Circle of solstice light. Circle of solstice magic. Circle of solstice bright. Circle of solstice power. Circle of solstice light. Circle of solstice magic. Circle of solstice bright. Circle of solstice power. Circle of solstice light. Circle of solstice magic. Circle of solstice bright. Circle of solstice power. Circle of solstice light. Circle of solstice magic. Circle of solstice bright. Good Yule. Happy solstice. Happy midwinter. Happy holidays. And a well wish to all of you who are joining us live via the Circle Sanctuary YouTube channel. This is Selena Fox, and I'm coming to you live from Circle Sanctuary Community Yule Festival today. And I want to give thanks to those here who've been chanting through their mask. And so I am very socially distanced from everyone and don't have my mask on right now, though it's handy, so that you can hear me, those of you who are joining at a distance via cyberspace. I invite you in the next few moments, those of us who are present and those of you who are present via online, call to mind winter solstice, the phrase winter solstice. And I'll repeat it several times. And as we do, pay attention to what surfaces in your own mind, what memories, what images, what sensations. Winter solstice, winter solstice, winter solstice, winter solstice, winter solstice, winter solstice. And now I invite you to imagine the sun glowing brightly above you, regardless of what the weather might be doing wherever you are. And reaching your hands up, imagine that rays of light are flowing down into your hand, reaching into your whole being. We draw down the solstice sun, draw down the solstice sun, draw down the solstice sun, draw down the solstice sun. And as we draw that solstice time sun into ourselves, imagine yourself radiating with radiant light, the light of this sacred time of year, the light of joy. That's our theme for our community Yule this year, the light of solstice joy. And connect with the light of solstice wisdom. The light of solstice peace, experiencing your connection with peacefulness within you. The peace that flows through the greater circle of nature of which we're part. Peace and wellness, harmony, balance, and drawing down and radiating solstice sun light of renewal. Using this meditation and work with imagery to resonate renewal within you and around you. Solstice sun, sacred light, solstice blessings, shining bright. We honor the solstice sun, we honor the solstice light, and we honor our connections, which contribute to blessings bright. So be it. Wow, we have a chance today to explore some ways for celebrating solstice. We're actually celebrating solstice right now, even though it's not official until 9:58 a.m. Central Time on Tuesday, December 21st. In ancient times, people would celebrate the winter solstice and the summer solstice over the course of multiple days and nights. And in the Circle Sanctuary community, that's been our practice since 1974 when we began. Actually, our very first gathering, once Circle birthed at Samhain in 1974, was a winter solstice party. We were located in a townhouse in South Madison, and it was a small gathering, and it involved some feasting. And we were not only from the greater Madison area, but somebody from England and somebody from Scotland was all part of that very first Circle Sanctuary winter solstice. And it took the form of a joyous celebration and a grand feast. Perhaps the most memorable part of the grand feast was me making meatloaf and having it in too small of a pan and having a flambeau meatloaf, which gave us an opportunity to practice good fire safety and extinguishing. So, you know, today, as I look back over winter solstice and the Circle Sanctuary community, we've celebrated in a variety of ways, and I've celebrated in a variety of ways personally. And our other solstice gathering, Pagan Spirit Gathering, that goes for a week plus, depending on if you're helping with setup and things. So we're keeping alive the tradition of getting solstice celebrations started even a few days before the actual point of solstice. What I'd like to share with you in the next few minutes are some real basics about planning a solstice celebration. Is it solstice eve? Is it solstice day? Or solstice time, which lasts more than a 24-hour period? Wow. When I was growing up, I learned about writing papers and doing investigative journalism, and that carried on into my college life and my post-grad school life. Who, what, where, when, why? These are things that many people have used as one wants to understand something going on, to write about it, to report on it. So we're going to have a chance to look at the 5 W's of celebrating solstice. Who? Well, who's going to be celebrating winter solstice with you? Now, I take the approach of having more than one solstice celebration. I have personal work that I do. So my personal solstice practice, my husband Dennis and I, we have a household solstice practice, which we've already delved into. We have an actual hearth fire where we can burn wood logs, and we have what I call the sequential Yule log tradition, where we have been kindling Yule logs for several days and several nights. It got fairly warm for a few days. We weren't burning the Yule log then, but one of the wonderful traditions we have is to be able to not only kindle the flame, but to meditate on the fire. And then we have a community solstice gathering. Typically, our Circle Sanctuary community gathering is the Saturday closest to the winter solstice. And we have another way of celebrating solstice. It used to be called the public winter solstice ceremony. Then it was the winter solstice pageant. Well, more recently, it's called Longest Night, and we have it on Winter Solstice Eve. And for those of you who are joining today in person and online, I invite you to join us for the longest night, which will be Monday, December 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Central Time. And this is another way of gathering people together for celebrating solstice. That will be a totally online event. And it's keeping with the tradition that our community not only celebrates solstice itself with each other and out here on our sacred land, but we have been putting on winter solstice celebrations for people of different cultures and spiritual traditions, walks of life as a service. It used to be for the greater Madison, Wisconsin area. Now it's actually for a much larger network of people. So who's going to be celebrating? But another part of who is, who are you going to invoke into your winter solstice celebration? So earlier today, we had a Wreaths Across America ceremony at our National Green Cemetery, and at Circle Cemetery. As part of beginning that ritual, I not only called on Great Mother, Great Father, and Great Spirit, divine unity, divine mystery. I use different terms in talking about divinity, but also called on Yuletide deities. And those of you who would like to know more about Yuletide deities, in particular Yuletide goddesses, this year on Sunday, that's tomorrow, December 19th, which is Upelia, the Festival of Ups. Yes, some people use that in connection with a military term, but this is Ups, who gives the name to opulent. It's the goddess of wealth and abundance. And many people know about her partner, Saturn, because the ancient Roman pagan celebration was Saturnalia. And she is one of the goddesses of Yuletide. So I'm doing a Yuletide Goddesses podcast. It's an encore presentation, and will be at 6 p.m. Central Time. And it will be on CSNP, Circle Sanctuary Network Podcast, our internet radio network. So you may want to call on some of the Yuletide divinities. The Great Mother, sometimes in the form of 3 mothers in ancient Germany, and as Rome moved into Germany and occupied that area. She, as three mothers, was known as the Matrone. And she's connected with winter solstice Holda, or Frau Holla, the goddess of winter solstice night. She also is connected with Twelfth Night, as is Befana, the Italian Christmas witch who flies around on a broom on January 5th, gifting those who have been nice with goodies and those who have not with some corrective feedback. And we have Baba Yaga, kind of the wild goddess of winter solstice. And then in terms of god forms, well, the Yule Bok, Thor, and the All-Father Odin also is connected. Actually, he's been cycled into Santa, who in addition to having components of Saint Nicholas, actually has the All-Father and some Holda woven into him as well. And the Yule Bok in some Scandinavian countries in the past, humans would dress up as these Yuletide goats and go door to door and deliver gifts. There is just so many wonderful traditions connected with Yuletide, and you may want to connect with the divine by whatever name or names, whatever form or forms that you already work with, but you may want to expand upon that as part of your winter solstice. Who to call to be part of your celebrations. I also want you to consider inviting ancestors to come and be part of Yuletide celebrations and the nature spirits. These have been honored at Yuletime across a variety of ancient pagan traditions, and as Christianity came across Europe, many of those were woven into Christian Christmas celebrations as well. So in addition to who, what are you going to do for winter solstice? And I have 13 ways to celebrate winter solstice. Don't have to limit it to 13 ways, but we'll be talking about that in a short while. Another part of what form is your celebration going to take? Is it going to be quiet, meditative? Is it going to be exuberant? Are you going to have feasting and parties? And is it going to be more like the Saturnalia of the ancient Romans, which partied down for multiple days and nights? Actually, some of the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day traditions that humans are aware of and participate in as the calendar year changes really have their roots back in winter solstice traditions. Are you going to have a multifaceted winter solstice celebration? Are you going to have a series of winter solstice celebrations? You're taking part in this workshop, so I imagine you already have a sequence of winter solstice celebrations that are potentially ahead for you. Where are you going to have your winter solstice celebration? Well, here we are at the Temple Room of Circle Sanctuary Nature Preserve. We're in southwestern Wisconsin in an area known as the Driftless Bioregion. And we were able to go outside today in late morning and up at the cemetery. The sun was shining bright. So we're on sacred land. We're on community land. Having a winter solstice celebration at a place that has had a history of winter solstice celebrations can be really wonderful. But having them in your home, definitely a good idea in this pandemic year, 2021. But There's another way that you can look at where to have your winter solstice celebration. You may want to go online and look at a live stream of some winter solstice celebrations that might be happening. Some of the ancient solstice sites have done some live streams in the past. Last year, no one was allowed to go to Stonehenge, which is aligned to the winter solstice. People know about it being a summer solstice gathering place, but it's actually aligned to winter solstice as well. And some actually think it had winter solstice as a primary alignment, and it was a time for honoring the dead as well as the beginning of the new solar year. And there's some other places. Newgrange in Ireland has had some live streams. Now, of course, some of this is weather dependent, but if you do get a chance to see a live stream at Newgrange in Ireland on Solstice Day, and be sure to check the time zone differences so that you can catch it. I don't know whether they're doing it this year or not, but if we get sunshine there, it comes through a slit over the main opening of this great earthen mound made of stone and earth, and a ray of light shines down and illuminates the back of this sacred place. So I have had a chance to actually do winter solstice meditations and celebrations online by looking at some of these live streams. And you may want to have your winter solstice celebrations in multiple places. And are you celebrating Christmas with neighbors or family? Well, Christmas is also part of the solstice time. So I like to call the entire December holidays season Yuletide. Yule is not only an ancient pagan term connected with the celebration of winter solstice, but it got adopted by people of different Christian traditions. And many people in Scandinavia who go, "Good Yule," it's their way of saying Merry Christmas, but they're actually saying Happy Solstice at the same time because Yule has gotten multiple purposes. When are you going to have your solstice celebration? I like time release celebrations. And I not only will be celebrating leading up to the point of solstice, but I continue the celebration to include Christmas Eve, which is also known as Mother's Night, Christmas Day, which is also the day of Sol Invictus. In ancient Rome, this was a time of celebrating the unconquered sun. So we shift from Saturnalia into this other celebration. Mithras is said to have been born in a cave at winter solstice time and had visits, was born of a virgin. Well, let's put it this way. There's some ancient pagan stories connected with winter solstice and the birth of divinity that have found their way into Christian traditions as well. And in old Rome, many people were celebrating for a period of time Christian Christmas as well as pagan solstice on December 25th. Was Jesus born on December 25th? Probably not. Shepherds aren't watching their flocks by night at that time. However, the solstice time was so strongly established that many people decided that it would be a good idea to move to actually celebrate the birth of Jesus at solstice time. So to me, the reason for the season is light. Now you can take that light however you want. It can be the sun, S-U-N, that sun god, sun goddess, sun spirit, sacred sun. it can be Son, S-O-N, of God and of the Virgin Mary. I don't see it as a culture war thing. I don't see it as who has the true holiday celebration, but I see it as a continuity of all these different holiday times. So I suggest that you consider doing something on Solstice Eve if you've not done that before. And a real simple thing to do is pay attention to when the sun goes down. And if it's visible, see where on the horizon it goes down and do a sun honoring. All hail the setting solstice sun. All hail the solstice eve day that's done. All hail the solstice eve night to come. All hail the setting solstice sun. So I do different versions of that as part of a sun honoring. And it's a way of connecting with the cycles of nature and with the sun in particular. So why celebrate solstice? Tradition. You may be part of a spiritual path where this is a holy day. That's certainly part of my own practice. You may be used to celebrating at this time of year some holidays by other names, and you want to add solstice to your happy holidays celebrations. I think a really important reason to celebrate solstice is to affirm and strengthen our connections with nature. And it's good to take time out and just be. Experience the peace within ourselves, connect with the magic of nature around us, and to join in with that wonderful happy holiday spirit that is flowing around the globe. And we want to celebrate the light of solstice, winter solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere, but part of my celebrations also involve celebrating that summer solstice is happening in the Southern Hemisphere. So happy solstice wherever you may be. Who, what, where, when, why? Well, let's take a look at 13 ways to celebrate winter solstice. Sun observation. Well, you don't have to wait till solstice eve to do that. And chances are you already know that the days have been getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And the good news, solstice day, it changes. So paying attention to that growing darkness is part of attuning to the rhythms of nature. But another piece is pay attention to where the sun rises on the horizon at dawn, if you're up then, and where it sets on the horizon, because by doing so, you will come to know, especially if you do this over the course of several days, that the sun at solstice time actually appears to come up at the same place on the horizon several days in a row and set at the same place on the horizon for several days in a row. In fact, the name solstice comes from this phenomena. Sol meaning sun, stis from the Latin meaning standing still. And so once it's reached its furthermost point on the horizon, then it starts moving back the other direction. And one of the wonderful things to do once solstices happen is to keep the sun observations up. And it's really magical to see. I take pictures as part of greeting the dawn from time to time. And it is really amazing from the same place, my front porch, to see how much that sun moves along the horizon, appears to be moving along the horizon as part of its cycle, and our earth cycling around the sun. Nature communion. If you don't always take time out to do some nature walks or nature meditations, solstice is a really good time to do it. And one of the things that I would suggest you consider doing is, with your nature walk, your nature meditation, your nature communion, is to turn off your electronic devices or just use the camera function. So silence the notifications, have them on mute, and if you're taking one with you, and to just tune into sounds, to what you notice with all your senses. Smells, sights. Go to a place where you just can be and be very still for a time. Be one with the environment around you. Be part of the community of nature at that place. If you're there for a long period of time, chances are, if there are birds in the area, they will be coming around and you'll be part of the environment. And I enjoy, in particular, looking at wildlife and listening to the sounds and noticing that it depends on the time of day or night as to what those nature sounds are. Nature communion also is an opportunity for us to renew ourselves, and being able to get out and just be one with nature is a powerful way of celebrating the solstice time. Peaceful meditations. Now, for many people, happy holidays time has a lot of happiness, but there's some frenetic activity that goes on. And if you've gone into a shopping mall pre-pandemic or even during the pandemic at times, there's just a lot of hustle bustle and lots of stuff going on. So that is actually something that's happened across cultures since antiquity. There's actually some of the old Roman writers talked about the commercialization of Saturnalia and all the hustle bustle. Well, there still is that dimension to the happy holidays time. But to balance whatever activities you have of just being quiet. It can be quiet at your home, quiet in nature, but giving yourself even 5 minutes of total silence, as silent as you can be. If you're in an urban environment and there tend to be lots of sounds out on the road, well, quieter time, I would say. And to actually just spend time focusing on your breathing, calming yourself down, and experiencing quiet, peace, stillness. Fourth way to celebrate solstice: music, chants, instrumental music, concerts. I mean, there's, even during pandemic time, there have been opportunities to connect on Zoom, on YouTube, online in various places, other social media, with concerts, pop-up concerts, planned concerts, television, radio, and some places are having gatherings with music. I'd like to share with you some chants that you might want to do as part of your celebrations. Solstice spirit of community, shine in you, shine in me. That's it. And I'm going to invite those of you who are present, if you wish, to join me. Solstice spirit of community, shine in you, shine in me. Solstice of community, shine in you, shine in me. Solstice spirit of community, shine in you, shine in me. Solstice sun, shining bright, shortest day, longest night. Solstice wish of hope and cheer, peace on earth throughout the year. I'm going to invite others to join me in this. We're going to speak it first. And this is a chant that I wrote that I do at both solstices, but obviously I changed some of the words to reflect the right solstice. Solstice sun, shining bright, shortest day and longest night. Solstice wish of hope and cheer, peace on earth throughout the year. Solstice sun, shining bright, shortest day and longest night. Solstice wish of hope and cheer, peace on earth throughout the year. Solstice sun, shining bright, shortest day and longest night. Solstice wish of hope and cheer, peace on earth throughout the year. Solstice sun, shining bright, shortest day and longest night. Solstice wish of hope and cheer, peace on earth throughout the year. So just a couple chants. I have some other chants up at my Selena Fox YouTube channel. Hopefully I'll add a few more as solstice time comes up. And then there's ways that you can make music with rhythms. I have my jingle bell rhythm maker here. Or you might want to sound a bell or play a singing bowl. There's many ways of making music. The tradition of ringing bells at solstice time actually is pagan in origins. Yes, in Christianity, church bells were rung, and there's some wonderful holiday music made by handbells. And last night I watched a special on 20 years of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, and it was really fabulous to see the handbells going. I just love the holiday times, and some of the carols that are called Christmas carols actually have their roots in pagan traditions of winter solstice. See the blazing Yule before us. What's that blazing Yule but the Yule log? Deck the halls with boughs of holly, which is one of the most popular of the holiday carols. Actually, is an old Welsh carol, and holly is something very much associated with this holiday time. So have some fun with music, create your own, or listen to some, join in chants, a wonderful way to celebrate Yuletide. Personal, household, community rituals. Well, part of the reason for sharing some of these approaches are so you can create your own. And it can be as simple as having a candle and kindling it on solstice day. It can be having a chance to sit around a hearth fire or a bonfire and having each person tell a story, or to make a wish. We have a Yuletide ceremony that is happening later today. And one of the old traditions, which is also another way of celebrating Yuletide, is burning a Yule log. So consider some ways you can create a personal ritual and a ritual with others. And if you don't feel up to creating a ritual, well, then I invite you to go online and see some of the rituals that are available. We are at a full moon time at Yuletide in 2021. And if you didn't join us live at our YouTube channel, Circle Sanctuary YouTube channel last night, you'll have a chance to be able to celebrate Yuletide and the full moon with our ceremony that's archived there. Another favorite way for celebrating Yuletide: feasting, revels, food, beverages. Wassail, wassail all over the town. Wassail is a cider that's been spiced, and sometimes it has alcohol in it as well, depending on the situation. But that's been a tradition connected with winter solstice and Christmas both, going from door to door with a wassail bowl with something that was quite ancient in practice, or going out to an apple orchard and singing to the trees. Well, we have wassail that will be served at our ritual today. I made wassail in a workshop I did previously in this month, and made even more wassail this morning with different spices. And there's certain kinds of foods that are traditional at this time of year. Yes, there's a dessert known as a Yule log, but that's different than the Yule log I'm going to talk more about in a few minutes. And there's Lucy buns or Lucy caca. These are Lucy cakes, Lucina cakes, and they are served at Swedish solstice, which December 13th used to be the actual day of winter solstice, but then calendars switched around in the 18th century, but they kept the day for Lucina's Day. So I imagine within your own family system, you may have some special foods that you serve and that you connect with this time of year. But I invite you to not only feast upon those foods yourself, but to give a bit of that out to nature. The whole Santa cookies and milk thing really goes back to an old winter solstice custom where food and drink were given to the nature spirits, the Nissa, the Tomte, the house spirits, to the whole realm of nature. And if you're going to give some treats to Holda on the 12th night, well, the traditional way is to put it on your rooftop. You may or may not have an easy way to do that. We have a deck that takes us up to our rooftop, but there's a lot of traditions. With La Befana, no cookies and milk for La Befana, the Italian witch who gives out goodies on January 5th. She wants red wine. So check out your Yuletide spirits and divinities and find out what they prefer. But having feasting and revels is a time-honored way. In fact, the idea of the 12 days of Christmas really has its roots back to the old Scandinavian Yule time, where people just holed up in a longhouse and had a big fire and burned, well, some say a whole tree as a Yule log. I suspect that there were sequential Yule logs for 12 days and 12 nights in a longhouse, and would tell stories and do feasting and drinking and having a good time for multiple days and nights during the coming on of the winter. So another thing to celebrate the winter solstice is tell stories. Tell stories that are associated with winter solstice. Tell stories of your own experiences with winter solstice. And I will share a brief story of our first winter solstice at Circle Sanctuary Land. It was 1983. We had just purchased the land at Samhain, and our very first Sabbath gathering took the form of going up to a place that we now call Ritual Mound and taking the altar stone that had been part of our microlithic stone circle at our very first Circle Land place, a rented farm near Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. If you see a first edition of Drawing Down the Moon, you'll see a picture of that very altar stone in the original stone circle we had. And it was cold, there was snow on the ground, we had a toboggan, we put this large altar stone on the toboggan, hauled it up. Dennis was with me, and a woman who is now in the other world, Beckett, was there, and several other people. And we had kind of an age range of half dozen or so of us that went up there. And we kindled a fire, we put in the altar stone, and it was a really beautiful day. Even though it was cold out, being able to connect with the land at Yuletide was a really powerful experience. Since that time, we have done Yule ceremonies in a variety of locations. We have had the pragmatics, when there's been tons of snow on the ground, to actually dig out the bonfire pit closer to the buildings and build our Yule fire there. And today we don't have any snow on the ground. We were actually able to go walk up and drive up to the cemetery. It was really wonderful. So think about stories that you know, stories that you've experienced. Invite others to share stories. In fact, one of my favorite things to do when I'm connecting with family members at the holiday times, and I consider it part of my solstice, is to ask about how the family had celebrated Christmas and these holidays in the past. Especially talk to older people that you know. And if you're new to a place, you've just moved to a location, you may want to talk with some of your neighbors or talk to some shopkeepers and just find out about holiday traditions associated with the area. I do think keeping alive the idea of storytelling at Yuletide is an important one. And as part of our longest night celebrations, we typically have at least one story, and we have a special one coming up this year. Gifting and connecting with Yuletide gift bringers. So we know about the exchanging of gifts. Who started the exchanging of gifts? Some say it was done in ancient Egypt. We know that in the Saturnalia, gifts were exchanged. They were exchanged in different cultures amongst different people. In fact, there's a whole lot of different holidays, and many of these happy holidays in December in the Northern Hemisphere are connected with gift giving. So St. Nicholas Day in the Alpine regions of Europe, December 6th, and sometimes gifts were given the night before, December 5th, a time known as Krampus Night. Santa Lucia's Day, usually the gifts were the oldest daughter in the house would get the Lucy cakes out and serve people early on at dawn. There have been celebrations amongst the Hopi and the Zuni, the Soyo, and it's beginning of the Kachina season. Sometimes gifts are exchanged then. The Yalda in Iran It's the rebirth of the sun on Winter Solstice Day. Yes, predating Islam, and many people are still celebrating that holiday. And of course, we have Christmas, Epiphany, 12th night, and we have Kwanzaa, Hogmanay, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. I mean, there's so many different holidays at this time, and gifting is often part of that. And not only consider the gifting with those that you know, loved ones, but consider gifting to causes and institutions that you want to support, and consider giving of time. One of the things that we do every year at our Yuletide celebration is a food drive, and we take the food we collect off to the local food pantry at the nearby Lutheran church that serves the people in this greater Barnabelt area. Wow, what's another way? Of course, lights, kindling fires, decorating the home with electric lights and battery operated lights. There's so many different ways to celebrate. And one of the wonderful things about kindling candles at winter solstice time, it not only is traditional, but it literally has symbolism for so many people in so many ways. It can help us literally lighten up. Solstice lights on longest nights. Solstice lights on longest nights. Solstice lights on longest nights. So another thing that you might want to do is solstice light of unity, solstice light of diversity, solstice light of harmony, solstice light of community, solstice light of unity, solstice light of diversity, solstice light of harmony, solstice light of community. Now, if you decorate a tree and it has lights on, one of my favorite traditions is to turn off all the lights, sit in the darkened room, and then turn on the lights. And of course, tree lighting is something that happens throughout the December month in the Northern Hemisphere in connection with all sorts of holiday celebrations. But the idea of kindling a candle, sharing the light, is something that's basically representing that the days are going to start getting longer. Well, Yule log and bonfires. I really wanted to have a hearth in our house. So back in 1999, when we got our own home starting to be built, we made sure we had a hearth fire so that we could actually kindle a hearth fire in connection with celebrating the seasons. The Yule log is a tradition that goes back in time, and there's different ways of working with a Yule log. One of the ways we've worked with the Yule log here at Circle Sanctuary is to have an actual piece of wood, often it's oak, and it's very dried, and we decorate it, put energy into it, get it prepared, and we will literally burn the Yule log. Some people are not in a place where you can literally burn a Yule log, so actually get a Yule log that you can kindle candles on either side. And I'm having my husband, Dennis, Dr. D, bring a Yule log. This is a display Yule log. And actually this Yule log was part of a holiday display in the rotunda of the Wisconsin State Capitol for many years. During Interfaith Awareness Week, I've added a pentacle with a sunburst to it for our celebration this year. And we have this Yule log display on one of our altars here. And we have our actual Yule log that we'll be burning this year, right in the middle of our big altar. There will be pictures, so check out Circle's social media. Bonfires, keep us warm, give us light, but you can do magic on solstice night, casting into the fire representations of things you want cleansed away. So often I do a release within a solstice fire, often taking twigs and other things that have come from drying herbs over the course of the warmer months. And so the leftover twigs I cast into the fire, as well as envision purification and cleansing. But a fire can be a wishing fire. And we have made some small wishing trees out of pine cones this year that we're going to get to put into our solstice fire along with the Yule log. Another way to celebrate this holiday is with greenery, and that deck the halls with holly. Why holly? Well, it was sacred to Saturn. So it was part of Saturnalia. But a lot of the reason we have Yuletide greenery is to remind us, especially in northern climes, that life is eternal and will continue on even in the deepest part of the winter. So you have holly, ivy, and you also have mistletoe. Mistletoe, many people see it as romance and kissing under the mistletoe. Yes, old tradition, but before you were kissing under the mistletoe, you were actually reconciling. You were making peace under the mistletoe. And it's something that goes back to ancient pagan times, and it's part of many traditions. The ivy, well, it's green in many places, even when it gets very cold. Some associate the holly with the male principle in nature and the ivy with the female principle in nature. And in England, there are holly boys and ivy girls in some traditions. Though in the Circle Sanctuary community with our gender diversity, well, we have the holly spirit and the ivy spirit and the mistletoe spirit, and it kind of varies according to how it gets associated. And of course, there's oak as well as holly. Holly representing the old year passing, the holly king, and holly with the holly king, and the oak with the new year coming. If you've ever heard of the tale of Little Baby New Year, often the baby New Year is represented by an acorn or an infant with an acorn, and that's because of the oak being associated with winter solstice. Well, ancestor honoring and learnings is something that I really see as an important part of winter solstice time. Literally, the ancestral realms are open at this time, not only for those hundreds of years of holiday music and symbols and traditions, but it's a time where we gather with loved ones. So a wonderful time to call on the ancestors and to also think about you and your celebrations of winter solstice, continuing on a tradition. And by doing so, whether you have offspring or not, you are an ancestor of those celebrating winter solstice in the future. Finally, sharing cheer and well wishes for the new year. Yuletide joy, Yuletide cheer, Yuletide spirit. Welcome here. I'm going to invite those who are present to join in and let us send some happiness out to all of you and all of us and into the world. Yuletide joy, Yuletide cheer, Yuletide spirit. Welcome here. Yuletide joy, Yuletide cheer, Yuletide spirit. Welcome here. Yuletide joy, Yuletide cheer, Yuletide spirit, welcome here. And of course, there is a song that we often sing. We wish you a merry solstice. We wish you a merry solstice. We wish you a merry solstice and a happy new year. We wish you a merry solstice. We wish you a merry solstice. We wish you a merry solstice and a happy new year. So be it. Well, I'm going to be here for a few minutes more. If you have a question, those of you who are here in the room, or those of you who are online, if you can put your question or comment into the chat, or those of you who are here want to share, just raise your hands and we'll see what kind of comments or things we might talk about for a few moments. Wondering, looking around the room, see if there's any comments or questions. What is, I guess I'll ask those who are present, is there something from our workshop today that you'll weave into your own celebration? Any ideas and stuff that were presented? I'm looking, or maybe I'll just ask for a show of hands, something you might do as you weave into your solstice celebrations. I try to learn something new every year about Yuletide and winter solstice and to incorporate that in and to try it out. That's actually how I found out about the Yule Bak. It's a symbol of good luck. And actually in Sweden, they make a giant one. And I guess the real test is how long will it last? There's some people get into prankster and it's right in the middle of a big town and sometimes it gets set on fire. In fact, if you go and look at Yule goat or Yule Bak in Sweden, chances are you're going to see some coverage of the flaming Yule Bak. Certainly, some of the things that I have come to learn is just the different cultures that have celebrated solstice. I have a Celtic sunstone here. It's a reproduction, and you'll notice there are 3 circles, and I'm going to move it around the room. The middle one's the equinoxes, the big one, the summer solstice, the small one, the winter solstice. We know people have been tracking the solstices since ancient times, not only with art like this, but from the alignments of many ancient sites. I'm going to check in with Bob, see if we have any questions or any comments. Well, I give thanks to everybody who has joined live here, and thanks for joining in with some of the chants. And I give thanks to all of you who've joined live via YouTube. And I hope that you will be able to take some of inspiration from our time together into your own solstice time. I will conclude with a sharing of my solstice piece, Circles of Caring and Sharing. And I did a version of this pre-pandemic. I was actually one of the ministers asked to contribute to holiday message. I don't think they fully understood the pagan piece, but and I'm really glad it did get included and printed. Through the ages and across cultures, the time around winter solstice, also known as Yuletide, has been a sacred time of caring and sharing. This is foundational to many holiday traditions and customs, old and new, and across religious, spiritual, and philosophical diversity in the USA and around the world. Through our holiday dinners, visits, socials, exchanges of greetings and gifts, we care and we share with our circles of family and friends. Through our participation in worship services, prayers, meditations, rituals, and other ceremonies, we care and share with our circles of religious community. Through our visits to area carol sings, tree lightings, holiday markets, company parties, school pageants, and other activities, we care and share with those who are part of our circles of locale, neighborhoods, schools, workplaces, clubs, civic organizations, and other institutions. As we gather, sing, pray, reflect, feast, and celebrate this winter solstice time, let us also make time to care and share with humankind through our state, our nation, and our planet through charitable giving. And let us also extend our awareness to our circles of caring and sharing to include creatures, plants, ecosystems, and diverse forms of life, known and unknown, that are part of the greater circle of nature of which we are all part here on planet Earth and in the cosmos. As we connect with these circles of caring and sharing, let us keep the ancient Yuletide tradition of attuning to peace and making peace with others. Let us recognize that through our life choices, lifestyles, and life actions, we can contribute to manifesting a more sustainable, lasting peace by working for a healthier environment locally, globally, and universally. May our caring and sharing be infused with divine love and joy, the spirit of Yuletide, of winter solstice, of happy holidays, not only through this holiday season, but throughout the year. So be it. Blessed be. Thank you so much for joining in, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future. Thanks to all that's here, all who are watching this live, and at some point this will get archived, so you'll have a chance to watch it later as well.